Hey guys, another season just started and it's already season 25. The main reason most of you are probably here is because you want to know which heroes are the best for solo climbing rank. If you ever need a tutorial or build for any of the heroes mentioned, the links for those videos will be on the description down below. I won't be including heroes that are almost banned in every single match, such as Xavier, Valentina, Julian, Wanwan and Kai. So if you ever see them open and you know how to use them properly, then you almost always want to pick those heroes. So without further ado, here's the list. Balmond is one of the most popular picks nowadays. His incredible speed at clearing the jungle is a huge advantage for the early to mid game. If you take advantage of his early game strength, you can easily overpower the enemy's jungler. Just make sure to let your roamer/tank know that's what you are planning to do. Also, since you want to build him with tank items, he can sustain quite a lot, while at the same time, his spinning skill will also do a good amount of damage with the combination of Cursed Helmet. His ultimate will also allow you to secure objectives such as the lore and the turtle, even when your retribution might be on cooldown. Terizla is probably the one who benefited the most with the latest Necro revamp. Now he's a menace to the opponents and can be a nightmare to deal with. His skills now feels a lot faster, longer and smoother, also he can sustain a lot. You can play him either in the side lane or as the jungler as well. If you want to take maximum advantage of his main strength, I would recommend playing as aggressively as possible right from the start. You can snowball the enemies easily if you know how to get fed in the early game. Paquito received a buff in the latest update. Although he was already quite strong to begin with, now with this latest buff, he feels like a professional boxer fighting against a regular civilian. Like with a lot of fighters in this meta, he can be played as a jungler as well, but I would recommend building him with more offensive items, since his combos can literally one-shot many of the enemy squishy heroes. Also, he's really good at creating chaos during the team fights, and his countless dashes makes him quite hard to catch. Thamuz almost feels like a tank, especially when you're using Vengeance, but just because he's so tanky, it doesn't mean he cannot dish out a good amount of damage. If you build him hybrid, he can be tank and a fighter at the same time. I've also tried him as a jungler, and it's actually not too bad. If you ever feel like your team is too squishy, because the roamer is a support, then I would highly recommend picking a tanky fighter like Thamuz for either the jungle or offlane role. Esmeralda is one of those heroes that doesn't need much introduction. She's sturdy, fast, masters the art of whipping, and can suck all kind of shields. Once you have built her enchanted talisman and a bunch of defensive items with cooldown reduction, you can have almost infinite shields. In the mid to late game, just keep pestering the enemy's backline, especially the mage, and you'll be cutting their damage output by a lot. Cecilion is one of the best mages for making a comeback. His late game is absolutely nuts, but if you know how to rotate in the early to mid game, he can still do quite a lot, especially if your teammates are on the same page. Just remember to not use his first skill more than 2 times in the early game, or else he'll be running out of mana extremely quickly, and you'll have to go back to base to recover, which will slow down how fast he can stack his passive. Natalia is the worst nightmare of any squishy heroes, but she does have some serious counters, so I would highly recommend waiting till the last moment to pick her. Ideally, you want to surprise your enemies with this pick. If the enemies are decent, they will be a little bit harder to pick off any targets in the late game, so that's why you want to completely dominate them in the early to mid game, so your team will be fed enough to finish the game as quickly as possible. But don't get me wrong, she is still pretty useful in the late game. She can split push fairly well, and if your time is good, you can still one-shot the squishy targets during the team fights. Beatrix is the marksman who has the maximum damage output in the shortest time. If you get too close to her, you get a shotgun on your face. If you stay too far from her, she can still snipe you from afar. Once you have mastered her different guns, you'll easily dominate most of your games, even in a losing match. Just build her Blade of Despair and Malefic Roar ASAP, and you'll shred any target. Atlas is perhaps the most annoying tank to deal with. If you have ever faced a decent Atlas, you'll know what I mean. So instead of letting the enemy pick him, why not just master him yourself and become the most annoying tank ever. His Flicker plus ult combo is one of the most devastating AoE CC skills in the game. Once you are caught, the only way out is Purify, but usually you don't want to choose Purify for most of the heroes, so it's like picking your poison. Eve is still a pretty solid mage, despite not having a dash skill. Her first skill and insane rage make up for that. As long as your positioning and timing is good, you should not have that much problem staying alive for most of the team fights. What made her so great is the fact that you can poke the enemies and clear the waves from a very safe distance. Brody is another marksman that can burst the target easily once they are marked a couple of times. If you manage to mark a lot of the enemies during the team fights, you can single-handedly burst them all down with his ult. I would recommend building him quite similar to Beatrix for the first few core items, and then later, build him a bit more tanky if you're having trouble surviving. If you're having trouble against one-shot mages, then build Athena shield. If it's physical damage, then go for Wind of Nature. If both, then just build both of them. Smiley face. Claude used to be considered an extremely weak marksman, but if you know how to farm extremely efficiently in the early game, he can easily overcome that once he gets his Demon Hunter sword. If you're having too much trouble during the laning phase, play more defensively, and once you get your ult, just use it to clear the wave instantly. But if it's too hard to even reach level 4, then see if your team can get in your lane once or twice to speed up your farm. Chou seems to never really got out completely out of the meta, so I really have no choice but to include him in this list. A good Chou will always find a way to catch the target off guard. Even the tank can become a victim because he can just kick them towards the turret. There's not much to say about him. If you have mastered him, then there's no reason to not pick him in most of the matches. Masha is the true definition of being a pest from start to finish. If you play her as the tank, you can just bother the enemy's jungler right from the start and give him a very hard time. Let your teammates know that's your intention from the start, so they will keep an eye on the situation and perhaps get an early kill. Just don't overdo it if you feel like you're about to die. Don't be a dummy. Karina sometimes get banned, but since there are so many OP heroes nowadays, she's only banned like half of the time. Nowadays, I much prefer to build her with full offensive items if I see that the enemies has a lot of squishy heroes, but if there are a lot of tanky heroes, then I will reconsider it and maybe build tank items instead. But if you want to have a lot of fun and one-shot most of your enemies, just go for the mage build. Anyway, that's all for this list. I know there's still some really solid heroes I left out, but like most of the heroes, it usually depends on the user, so if you have mastered any of the hero, meta or not, you will still be able to do fine most of the time. For example, whenever I play Cyclops, Harley, Saber, and so on, I will still do fairly well and have a good win rate. So if you know, you know. Anyway, that's about it. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.